For many of us, we just learned to read. It was sort of like a magical thing that happened, and we don't probably remember the energy that we put into it as a 5- and 6-year-old learning and developing decoding skills. So it's probably understandable that many good readers or people who have found learning to read easy are perplexed by a group of the population that have experienced great difficulty developing these skills.
The neuroscientists have done a lot of work on the brain, and it's clear that dyslexia seems to have some sort of genetic basis. That work has also found that if you give a good sound instruction to adults with dyslexia, or children, even children with dyslexia, they've been able to see that the brain processing will change. So they're calling that a kind of plasticity of the brain, that particularly if you teach them phonological skills, so that they learn how to decode words, then brain imaging studies have found that there's a shift. So the good news is that although you may have reading difficulties and although you've got dyslexia, things can change.
A very simple definition of dyslexia is difficulty with words. But we know that many people have difficulty with words or reading words, but they're not dyslexic. Professor Bill Tumner has come up with a definition of dyslexia. His definition is that it is a persistent difficulty in otherwise normally developing children. They don't have any hearing difficulties. They don't have any other cognitive delay or major learning difficulties. These children have been exposed to research-based reading instruction, so they've been well taught. The difficulty lies with their phonological processing abilities. And we could say that that has two major parts. One is their difficulty with developing phonemic awareness, and that's hearing those little small units of sounds in words. So a word like cat has 3 sounds. And they have difficulty with phonological recoding or applying letter-sound relationship rules to words. So they have difficulty sounding out.
The key thing that I would be looking for with somebody with dyslexia, with decoding problems, I will give them what we call the alien words test. And what we do is we just say to them that this is a list of words and they're the names of people from outer space. I said, these are not English words, and I just want you to sound them out and read them to me. And by giving them that list of words that covers most of the letter patterns that they will strike when they're reading normal text, I can find out where they're at in terms of the decoding. The good thing about alien words is that they can't rely on words they've seen before. You know, if I gave them the word like toy to read with OY in it, you know, they might remember that from before and they visually remembered it, so they can read it and so you say, oh, that's okay. But if I give an alien word like stoy, then they've never seen before, they can't call on anything in memory. Memory is blank. The only way they can read that is they've got to sound it out. And that's where we find out whether they really do know that those letter patterns and what sound each letter pattern has. So that's the whole idea of that test. And it test runs right through to quite long alien words like sandwixable, which tells whether you can break words up into their parts, into prefixes and suffixes and all that kind of thing. So with that, I can tell where they're at in terms of the range of decoding skills, so that if they already know one bit, I don't have to teach that. I'll just go straight to the part that's hard for them.
Okay, good. You can start reading.
The Watson family consists of Mum, Dad.
The whole idea of dyslexia is contested because so many people have looked at it from so many different angles. I just sort of look at it from a practical point of view. If somebody's got dyslexia, somebody is quite good in terms of language. Their language is good. You can read a book to them, they can tell you what it's all about. You can discuss things with them, they've got lots of good ideas and so on. But when you give them a book to read aloud, they struggle. And so that's the difference.
Okay, well done, good reading. Excellent.
There are some myths associated with dyslexia. For example, that more boys have dyslexia than girls, and that has not been shown in the research. Dyslexia is not letter reversal. Many children, when they're learning to read, will reverse letters or read on instead of no or saw and was, so they'll reverse words. Dyslexia is not a visual issue. Often eye training has been prescribed for children with dyslexia, but that's not the cause of dyslexia. Dyslexia does not go away. There's not a quick fix for dyslexia. It will vary from individual to individual. Dr. Sally Shaywitz says that dyslexia robs a person of time. And so time is something that they need. They need more time to read. They need more time to write. So the decoding is a slow process, and they rarely develop the fluency that a normal reader would develop.